Welcome to the Rewards Master, where we talk about all things points and miles. We discuss credit card rewards and restaurant rewards. We talk about travel portals. We talk about how to get business and first class flights for less and how to upgrade your airline status. Just everything that has to do with points and miles and just enjoying your travel for less money. If you're listening to this on a podcast, if you would subscribe to the channel, also like the channel and give us a 5-star rating and review. If you're listening to this on YouTube, then please hit that like button and also subscribe to the channel. That helps us out immensely. Today we're going to do a rundown of the most recent changes to the Delta credit card lineup from American Express. And I got to tell you, are they ever going to stop? I mean, if it's not Delta on one hand changing their entire system and making it far less rewarding while trying to hide that fact from everybody, which is what it seems like they're doing, or American Express revamping, 40 cards that they're saying that they're going to revamp this year. And apparently they're starting with all of their Delta cards. So here's 6 of them at least that they're revamping. And they're trying to give a lot more credits, but they're raising annual fees and they're going to the full coupon book thing. And so I'm going to break through these and just try to break them down into what I see as the good and the bad. But I'm going to tell you at the forefront of this video that I'm extremely frustrated with Delta because I really want to like them. And my motive is pretty simple. The airport I fly out of has one airport lounge, and I have access to airport lounges everywhere I fly through, and usually most places I'm flying to. But there's one in my home airport, and it's a Delta Sky Club. So I had the Delta Reserve for a while. Earlier this year, at the very beginning of the year, I downgraded it to the Delta Gold because I was going to try to switch over to them, get some status with them, even though I can't go fully status with them because some of the places I have to go, Delta just doesn't fly, only American and United do. But I thought I'd just kind of share that between airlines, but it just wasn't going to work, especially not with their new system. You can't really get great value with credit card spend. And so I want to like them. I really want to like them. And the times I've been in a Sky Club, it's outstanding. The hard product on a Delta flight is just better than American and United. But wow, they just make it so hard. And then they even change it stuff up again. Now there's some things on these new cards that I do like, but certainly not everything. So I'm going to break them down for you one by one. Let's go ahead and start with the bottom tier. Now, of course, Delta, they have their blue card, which is just kind of the no annual fee and you don't get much for it. But kind of the bottom tier, the low annual fee card they had was the Delta Gold card and the Delta Gold Business card. Now those cards, they were okay. They never were very good. And I think you could perhaps argue that they're slightly better now than they were before, but they raised the annual fee. They raised it from right around $100 to $150. But they gave some more credits. And that's currently the card that I now have because I downgraded to it. And the reason I downgraded instead of just canceling or going down to the no annual fee card is because I want to be able to get that 15% off because I have a whole lot of Sky Miles. However, even though that is a benefit, and I looked at how many miles I was going to redeem and figured the $95 a year or whatever was worth it. But I'll tell you, for the long term, I probably won't keep one at all once I kind of extinguish my miles because Delta Sky Miles just aren't worth much in the first place. I mean, they call them Sky Pesos all over the internet. And certainly when you compare them, they're not as good as United Miles, and they're really not as good as American Miles. I mean, I compared the same flights going across the country, across the United States from one end to the other, which I often fly. And I found that, I could get like the cheapest flight I could get on United was like 14,000 or 15,000 miles. The cheapest that I could get on Delta was like in the 20s, even with that discount. And then there was a flight on American for 7,000 miles. So, I mean, they're just not worth much in the first place. So that 15% helps some, but for a long-term plan, Delta miles just aren't something that I want to try to accumulate. So, but this gold card for somebody who is flying Delta, maybe you're out of Minneapolis or you're out of Atlanta or one of their big hubs and you feel kind of trapped to them. This card, I think they've made it slightly better because yes, they're charging about $50 more a year in annual fees, but they gave some credits to it, which, you know, if you're going to be disciplined about using them, then it can certainly offset the fee. The first credit that they offered is they have what they're calling the Delta Stays credit. And that basically is they're trying to follow out of the playbook of American Airlines and get everybody to book everything through their portals. So what they want you to do is book hotels or book car rentals through their portal, and they're going to give with the personal card a $100 credit, and they're going to give a $150 credit with the gold business card. So that right there, if you use it completely, would completely offset your annual fee. Now, the other thing that they offered is before you could spend $10,000 on this card, you get a $100 flight credit. They doubled that to a $200 flight credit. So if you're going to spend some money on the card, which I would assume anybody who really is going to keep this card long term is probably going to be a loyal Delta flyer and probably put some spend on this card. The card is going to kind of pay for itself if you use those credits. So you're going to have that. Once you spend 10 grand, $200 is more than that $150 annual fee. And if you use either the $100 on the personal version or the $150 for the stays on the gold card business version, then you are certainly going to offset that annual fee and even make some on that. So on this card, even though I won't be keeping it because I'm just not going to fly Delta because I just can't figure out a way to make it work and it be sensible and not cost me bazillions of dollars. So I'm not going to keep it, but I could see how somebody would and how somebody could argue that this card has actually gotten better. Now, the multipliers aren't great. They aren't on any airline card, and especially not on Delta's cards. But certainly, this may be considered an upgrade on this card in particular. The second card we look at is both the business and the personal version of their Delta Platinum card. Now, this card was kind of a fan favorite for a lot of people. I have friends, family members who love this card, keep it year after year after year, because before it had a $250 annual fee, and then you could get this annual certificate that you could use for a companion. It was good in the lower 48 states for a round trip. So basically it was a buy one, get one free. And the people I know that have this card and love it use that every year, and that more than offsets the $250 annual fee. Well, they've raised the annual fee now to $350. And they've tried to do the same thing. They're going to American Express's kind of standard playbook of more and more credits, and they've added a bunch to this card, and I suppose it could be argued it's better, but I suppose it would depend on a person's individual situation. Now, this card has some of those similar credits, but it breaks it up, just like the American Express Gold, the American Express Platinum, into monthly credits. You get a $120 Resi credit. Now, I looked into the card because of that. I thought, well, you know, I'm used to using the Grubhub credits, and I'm used to using the Uber Eats credits and all of that. So I can be disciplined enough to add one more and eat my lunch one day a month at one of these places. The problem is that I found out when I downloaded the Resi app that you don't have Resi everywhere. I suppose the people that live in New York and LA and big cities are going to not have any problem with it at all. But when you live in a smaller community or out in rural America, yeah, it's just not going to work. I mean, there is one restaurant in our town that has Resi. And so it's just not going to work for somebody like me. But if you live in a larger community, my family members live in Dallas-Fort Worth, it's probably going to be fine. You just got to decide if you are going to be disciplined enough to not let those credits expire because they're month to month and they don't pass over to the next month. So are you going to use that? Is it restaurants you'd like to go to? Is that $10 credit going to be usable for you? They also have a $10 ride hailing credit. I don't know if that's going to be Uber or Lyft or what it's going to be, but that adds up to $120 a year. But again, it's the same kind of thing like the Uber credits with the Platinum card and the Gold card from the standard American Express lineup. So you have to use it or lose it every month at $10. So, I mean, I think most of us who do much with credit cards are pretty familiar with those kind of credits. I mean, I have one on my AA executive card that I have to use every month. I have the Gold card I have to use every month. And so that one didn't bother me too bad, especially if it can be used for like an Uber Eats. But again, same kind of thing. They're just kind of playing the game and banking on the fact that people won't use those credits. They'll forget about them or they won't be disciplined enough to do so. So that's just kind of the same old thing that they've done with other cards. And I would expect most American Express cards are going to be moving to this, even those that aren't membership rewards earning cards, those that are in kind of their partner lineups. Some of the things with this card are staying the same after their total rewrite of their membership program for status. And that is that you are going to receive 1 mile or 1 Sky Mile for your medallion qualifying dollars for every $20 you spend on this card. That is awful. I mean, when you compare that to even what you can get on United cards, which I would consider to be the worst in the industry, this one's even worse. And so do not do that. If you're going to try to get status with a Delta card, get the reserve card. And we'll talk about that in a minute because it's twice as good. I mean, you get 1 for 10 there. So don't try to spend your way to status with this card. So that's something we've known about. That was there before they did this refresh, but it's just not a good use of a card that has very low multipliers, and then the points that you get aren't worth anything, and then you got to spend a whole lot of money to get anywhere with your status as you're trying to attain better status with Delta. Now, after they did that refresh of their miles program, then they made a lot of people upset. And then a lot of people, because of the comments, and I think they had a lot of people canceling credit cards and doing challenges to get in with other airlines, they kind of made some amendments to it. And one of those is this card and also the reserve card, they give you a boost towards your status of the next year of 2,500 medallion qualifying dollars just for holding the card. Now that's a pretty good boost. So if you had 2 of the cards, if you had a reserve, like a reserve business, and then you had this personal platinum, then you're already at silver status, which is their lowest status, and that gives you a great start towards an even higher status. So there is a way that this card could be useful for gaining status, but it certainly isn't the one card meets all option if you just want to have a card and find a way to get to status with Delta. It's only really good in conjunction with another card that you're going to try to put together a strategy to be able to use your spend to help you along with your flights, along with getting the bonus from just having the cards to get to status. With the card, you get 5-star status with Hertz. I think that's just kind of irrelevant. But the one thing that is a big time upgrade for this card and might be worth the extra $100 a year, in and of and by itself, is that you get to use that companion certificate. It's been expanded. You couldn't go to like Alaska and Hawaii with it before. It was just the lower 48 states. Now you can. And that did make me pause and think about it a little bit because, well, if you can get a flight to Hawaii, now it's not first or class or comfort plus, but if you wanted just a flight to Hawaii, you're getting a buy one, get one free every year. So is it worth it? Well, it's $350 a year. You get those credits that you got to be careful to be able to use at $10 a month. But if you did, you're getting 240 of it back. You're getting a companion certificate that you can go to Hawaii. I suppose that if somebody really likes Delta, now not if they really like Delta and think they're going to get status through this card. That's what just frustrates me about it. But I suppose you could see it as an upgrade as long as you use those credits and as long as for sure you're going to use that flight certificate for a flight that's worth it. So if you maximize it, yeah, I think there's a strong argument that this card has actually gotten better, even though it's gotten more expensive. Now we get to the big boy in the lineup. the Delta Reserve card and the Delta Reserve Business. Now, both of these cards, they are kind of the top of the line when it comes to Delta cards. And I had this card last year. I was trying it out because under their old system, I really wanted to reach Delta status. As I said, I was excited to use that club in my local airport, to have a club on takeoff, and then I don't have any trouble on layovers to find clubs. And then when I land, usually there's one. So I thought that'd just be outstanding to have that place to relax and get ready for my flight. But I just, when they changed the whole system, I just wasn't going to be able to get there to status because I had worked it all out based upon mileage flown. Now they don't care about that anymore. It's just about how much money you spend. And they just made it expensive to get there to where I wanted to get. So for me, it was a game changer. So I graded the card, but I did like the card. Now the card is not an earner. I mean, it's atrocious at earning. You only really get a multiplier on Delta flights and you get Delta miles, which are just kind of worthless. But when it comes to just the perks, it is pretty good. The card gave you access to the Sky Clubs. Now they changed that, but when they kind of did their amendment to their change, they made it a little better. They originally said 10 visits a year, 10 single visits a year. Then they changed it to 15-day visits. And what that means is if you start and if you stay in or go to several clubs during the course of one day or one trip, they all count as one and you get 15. So that's 15 days of travel. That's really not that bad. The card also gets you in when you're flying Delta to the American Express Centurion lounges, escape lounges. It's a pretty good card. If you fly Delta all the time, it's a pretty good card for lounge access. And then when it comes to this card's value, I think that the greatest benefit was, again, it gave a travel certificate for a companion, and that one could be used for Comfort Plus or for first class. And that's also been expanded now to count for Hawaii. So you can buy first class ticket to Hawaii and take somebody with you. And so, yes, the fee went up from $550 to $650, but they did make that certificate better. The access to the clubs is not that bad. However, when it comes to the price, I mean, $650, that's pretty significant. But they did try to offset it again in typical American Express fashion with lots and lots of credits. So let's dive into those. They've added this Delta Stays credit to this card as well. And this one gives you $250 or $200 for the personal card, $250 for the business card. So, I mean, if you're going to use their online portal to book hotels, then I guess that's a pretty good credit. I mean, it offsets that $650 by $200 or $250. They doubled down on this Resi credit. This one gives you $20 a month, so $240. And then they also give you that $10 a month, $120 a year for a rideshare app. Again, I don't know which one that'll be. But when you add all of that together, it comes out pretty good. I mean, 200 plus 240, that's 440, plus 120, that's 560 out of the 650 that the fee is for the annual fee. So when you put all that together, I mean, that seems like a pretty good value, especially when you get a companion certificate and you get the lounge access. So I can't argue that the card is bad. In fact, when I look at all three of these cards, I looked at them and I considered, is this refresh a good thing? And typically for me, if I could figure out a way to fly Delta and they went everywhere I wanted to go, I would love to be able to access my local club. I'd love to have that access to the Centurion lounges, which I really like. That's all a good thing. The problem is I would have to fly Delta all the time, and then I probably still wouldn't get to status, and then I wouldn't reach the status I have on other airlines. So I'm having to weigh out, I mean, which is more valuable to me? Going to a club every time I fly out or having some degree of status with some of these other airlines and actually getting upgrades on the flight. So that's kind of been how I've been working through it. I think at the point I am now, I'm just going to forget about it and move on. But you may see it differently. And if you fly Delta, if you think you can work it through, if you think that you can find a way to reach status, or maybe you don't fly enough that you care about status, then maybe this is a really good choice. One of these cards is a good choice for you. Whether you're talking about the gold, the platinum, or the reserve card, they can be good depending on your circumstances. So let's just hope that Delta is done making changes, although I wouldn't bet on that because they clearly want to make it a money-making system with people that have money and are willing to spend money with them. And why wouldn't they? I mean, they're a business. But they're going to price out a lot of people with these annual fees and with their system that just makes it where you're just not going to reach any level of benefit unless you fly and spend a ton of money on Delta. So you make your decision for yourself. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about it. And we'll see you here next time. Take care.